Nobody covers the sport of college basketball or is better in tune with what's happening in the world of college hoops than ESPN's Jeff Goodman. And he's been all over this grad transfer recruitment of Joe Cremo from UAlbany and a lot of big schools and big-time coaches' names coming after the Scotia grad here in the Capital Region. And Jeff, good enough to take some time out of his busy schedule, especially coming off National Championship weekend in San Antonio, to join us here on Big Board Sports in Albany on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Jeff, good morning. Chris Honorato and Brian Mariano with you here. Before we get to some of the stuff on Cremo, which is really why we wanted to have you on the program here this morning, and certainly I'd like to maximize our visit and ask you even about Kevin Herter at Maryland, who is from our area, and how he may fit in the NBA down the road. I want to ask you about this investigation that's going on at Siena College. The news broke late last night that there was an investigation into alleged verbal abuse from the head coach, Jimmy Patsos, towards a student manager who's been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. You are better versed in investigations like this. In my time in Albany, we haven't dealt with a lot of scandals or investigations like this. When you hear about something like this, Jeff, what do you immediately think about what may be ahead for the head coach?
Well, certainly it doesn't play well for Jimmy Patsos in his future. I think this is kind of the new wave now, though, of kind of doing things to try to be able to fire somebody with cause. And we start with UConn and Kevin Ollie, and they haven't come to an agreement yet. Pittsburgh and Kevin Stallings, they tried to fire him for verbal abuse and some of the things he said actually to a fan at Louisville about them paying $100,000 for a player, and now this. And it's obviously each one's different, so they're unique, and we don't know if this is accurate yet or not with Jimmy, but certainly if it is, it would give them a validation to fire him with cause and thus not have to pay him either whatever his buyout is or the remaining money on his contract. So we'll see what happens. I would expect Patsos to come out with some sort of statement here soon. And will he fight this and deny the allegations, or will he just kind of go away? And that's the question with all these is Kevin Ollie's trying to fight it right now at UConn, and they may come to some sort of agreement in between. He's owed about $10 million. That's kind of the new wave of doing it right now.
And obviously, the money we're talking about at this level, not equal to what Kevin Ollie would be missing out at UConn, but still with 3 years left on Jimmy's deal at Siena at about $330, $340 in that neighborhood per year, a sizable amount of money on the table, no doubt about that. Jeff Goodman of ESPN with us here, college basketball reporter and insider. All right, Jeff, the big news that broke late last week was that Joe Cremo was going to move on from UAlbany, was not going to finish out and play his senior season for the Great Danes, was eligible as a grad transfer, so would play immediately at his next school of choosing. And I'm telling you, I mean, for somebody who covered him in high school, when I start seeing Gonzaga and Arizona and Creighton and Louisville and UConn, Jeff, I'm thinking to myself, this kid from Scotia, New York, is getting a ton of big-time attention. And I saw you tweet out that you love his game. What is it you like so much about Cremo, and how does he fit into maybe a Power 5 conference team?
I just think he's one of those guys that plays with emotion, that's a high-character kid that can do a little bit of everything out there on the court. He can score. And I think he fits in. Again, you got to understand these days, these high majors are saying to themselves, we lost guys, whether it's due to transfer, whether it's due to a kid leaving early. And what we're going to do is get a grad transfer because all it is a one-year deal. So they're not locking up a scholarship beyond 1 year. So they're saying, hey, we've only got 11 guys on scholarship anyway. We can bring in a high school guy now, but probably most of the top high school guys are already accounted for. So at this point, you're going to be reaching and taking a guy that probably you didn't think was good enough a couple months ago, but now you're saying to yourself, all right, we'll take him. Or we'll take a seasoned guy like Joe Cremo, who's played, against high-quality teams over the course of his career and done well, and maybe he can come in and either fill a role or maybe even be better than that. And I think that's where you're seeing all these top teams. I mean, he's having Creighton, Ohio State, I think Texas, told me Marquette, Wojciechowski's coming in, Penn State. They're all coming in the next few days to Albany to visit with him. And then you've got other big-time schools, Gonzaga, Cincy, UConn, Maryland, Arizona, all these other schools that have reached out to him. So right now, if you're Joe Cremo, your head is spinning because a lot of these coaches, the only time they've ever seen you play is on tape. You don't know, the situations there in terms of who's got guys coming in, who they are, because you haven't followed it closely. You're playing at Albany. You're not worried about who Arizona's recruiting or who Ohio State's got coming in this year. So it can be a little bit daunting a task to try to figure this thing out right now. And I'm a big Joe Cremo fan. I just hope he chooses the right place, the right fit where he can fill a role and get some minutes.
Jeff Goodman joining us here, ESPN college basketball reporter and insider. I know, Jeff, we both got an opportunity with me calling games for Albany, and you were there against Louisville when Albany was almost able to take them down in Louisville. Looking at Cremo's game, is there a specific conference that you would see that would fit him more than a specific school?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think he's, he could play in the Big Ten. You're seeing a lot of Big Ten schools after him. Right now, Ohio State, again, Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland, a bunch of Big Ten schools because I think he's got that toughness to him. And that's kind of what you need in the Big Ten, right? I mean, you got to be mentally tough, you got to be physically tough, but I wouldn't limit it to that. I think, Big East depends where he wants to play.
Right.
Does he want to go across the country? Would he rather stay where still his family can watch him play in his final season and be a little bit closer to home and go to a Big East school? If somebody like that, Marquette, Creighton are two, again, that seem to be very interested because Greg McDermott and Wojo are both flying out. So that's how you can tell. If you're him, you're saying to yourself, hey, if the coach is willing to fly cross country or far away to visit with me, yes, then I'm a priority might be the wrong word, but certainly they're very interested, and I think that's where you start. Who are the schools that are willing to fly out and invest a day to come see and meet with Joe Cremo so he can see him face to face and find out, hey, what's the plan for me? Because I don't want to leave here and not play. I want to fill a role, and if I'm him too, I want to go somewhere that I can play in the NCAA tournament. And all those schools, you look at them, and again, Creighton, Ohio State, Chris Holtman did an unbelievable job this past year at Ohio State. Texas, Shaka Smart, they have Matt Coleman. So how much would he play at Texas? I don't know. He's got to look at those situations. But listen, guys, there's a ton of kids these days, this year more than ever, kids trying to transfer up. And you got to be very careful. And I think Cremo will be fine as long as he picks the right spot. But there are a lot of kids that transfer up that don't play. So, again, he's got to be careful like all these kids.
And, Jeff, I know you know Joe the way we do. If Joe Cremo if he's playing 8 to 10 minutes a game, I don't care if they're cutting down nets at the end of this thing. He won't feel like he had a real big hand in what happened. Jeff, one last thing, and we will let you go. Kevin Huerter at Maryland, I've been saying this for a few years, and some people have looked at me like I'm crazy, and it isn't just because I have red hair and he has red hair. To me, he's an NBA player, the way he affects the game in so many different areas. Now, I don't know if he's going to explore the waters this year or if he'll just try after his junior season. Where are you on Kevin Huerter's game and whether or not it translates to the highest level?
I absolutely agree with you 1,000%. I love him. I love him because he's got size and he can shoot the hell out of the ball, right? Like, those are two things that you can't teach. You got the size, and if you can shoot it like Kevin Huerter can shoot it, you got a chance. And I think he can do more than just shoot it, too, and we're going to see it even more this year. I love that combo of Anthony Cowan and Huerter because Cowan makes people better. He finds Huerter in the right spots. Maryland should be better this coming season, even losing Justin Jackson, who they didn't play with this past year. He was hurt. So I think as the Terps become more relevant, you hear Huerter's name a little bit more. This year they just weren't relevant enough nationally for Huerter to get a ton of attention. But, man, I said it to him, actually. I saw him at the Big Ten tournament this year, and I went up to him. They were just shooting before in warm-ups, and I went up to him. I said, hey, man, just just keep playing the way you play, because I just love his game. I don't know him that well. I know Cowan a little bit better, but I love the way he plays. I'm with you, like I said, 1,000%.
Love it. Jeff Goodman, cannot tell you how much we appreciate the time here this morning in Albany to break down some of our local players, and hopefully we'll catch up down the road once Joe makes his decision.
And obviously the name to keep an eye on if something does happen with Patsos, I've been told is, and I'm sure you guys have talked about a little bit, Patrick Beeline.
Yes.
Son of John Beeline. That's a name to keep an eye on if something does go down with Patsos.
Jeff, just to spin off that really quickly, sure. The timing of this, many people would say, is curious. It feels late in the process, and maybe it is the fact-finding mission Siena's going through in order to fire with cause. I would have to think, unless Beeline is ready to jump on immediately, this puts Siena in a difficult spot to find its next head coach.
He'd be, from what I'm told, he'd be willing to jump in immediately, unless there's a better job out there, which I don't know of. Because, again, Siena is that job that a lot of people really, really covet. I mean, think about the coaches over the years. Most of them have been successful. I mean, Rob Lanier is one of the few that wasn't. And Patsos is, not as much success as people thought he would. But overall, a lot of guys, it's been a springboard. And Patrick Beeline, didn't bite at Bryant, didn't bite at Maris. Those are two jobs I'm told he could have had, and I think he is holding out for a job like Siena. And Beeline's had some success at Lemoyne. I've known Pat a long time. He's not really like his dad. He's got a different type of personality, a little bit more outgoing, and, again, has done a good job at Lemoyne. But I don't want to speculate too much because, again, Jimmy Patso is still the coach, but if something does happen, I wouldn't be surprised to see Patrick Beeline heavily in the mix.
Well, as you know, in a market that doesn't have professional sports, the fan base is starved to win at the Times Union Center in downtown Albany. No doubt about that. Jeff, again, thank you so much for the time here this morning on Big Board Sports and 104.5 The Team ESPN Radio.
Anytime, guys. Talk to you guys soon.